Hello everyone, thank you for having me. My name is Joris Aerts from Clickworks, and I'd like to talk about ChatGPT, prompting action. I presented this 1 month ago in Berlin at .fmp, and I was kindly asked by David to present this to you today. So thank you very much for the opportunity. A little bit about myself. My professional career with FileMaker started in 1996. I started Clickworks in 2005 together with my brother Jeroen, here on the picture. We're based in Belgium, in Antwerp, and I'm certified personally in every version of FileMaker since version 7. I co-organized and attended a lot of European conferences, and I was a DEF CON speaker the last time we had a live DEF CON. So this is our team at Clickworks. We are currently a team of 15. This is our beautiful hometown of Antwerp, Belgium. Oh yes, and this is my personal passion, sailing and playing the guitar. So about today, about this presentation, a little disclaimer. This is not a theoretical presentation. This is not an in-depth overview of large language models and the position of ChatGPT. I want to give you an overview of what ChatGPT can mean for you as a FileMaker developer or to us as a team of FileMaker developers. It has been a game changer for us, I can already tell you that, and I'd like to present some ideas and inspire you. So I hope you take away 1 or 2 tips for using ChatGPT in your daily routine. So that said, yeah, this is what came out of an AI if I gave exact this same introduction. So I feel a little bit like Alice in Wonderland in this new world of large language models, and I'd like to take you on a journey with me. So these are the topics I have for you today. How to use ChatGPT as a FileMaker development assistant, as a research assistant, and so on. So several different domains where you could use ChatGPT. The most typical one is the last one. I keep the fun stuff for the last, so using ChatGPT to write texts, but it can do much, much more. A little bit of introduction, ChatGPT 101. Let me switch to the browser. So if you want to try, you just go to chat.openai.com. I think you need to register, and then you have free access to this model, GPT 3.5, and you can use a limited set of so-called prompts. You can also register, which costs like $20 a month. This gives you faster response speeds, and most importantly, this gives you access to their latest model, GPT-4. And spoiler alert, is it worth it? Yes, it is. There's a huge difference between 3.5. You have probably heard about these models hallucinating and all the kinds of problems. It is a real problem, and I will show you some examples. But with GPT-4, it's already a huge difference. So that said, the paid subscription also gives you API access. So you can go to platform.openai.com/playground. Once you register, you can register API keys, and that means that you can integrate ChatGPT in your FileMaker scripts using very, very simple API calls. I'm going to switch to Postman. If you are a bit at home with insert URL and JSON and use of APIs, this is actually one of the simpler APIs to integrate. It's a simpler bearer token authentication, so you just need the API key. It's a fairly straightforward piece of JSON that you need to feed it. This is an example prompt. There are 2 examples, question and answer, and then the next question. And so if I send this over, I will get a request with a message in JSON. So this is what we need to retrieve from FileMaker. Very, very simple, very straightforward. So I'm not going to explain this in detail. I assume you can already use APIs with FileMaker. Oh yes, about tokens. If you start using the API, then you will be charged based on the number of tokens you exchange. And so there are, as you can see in this playground, a lot of different models, and there are some examples here. So things you can do. And then you will see this counter. This corresponds more or less with the number of words in your text, and this is how you will be charged. But the same thing applies as with Google APIs. You really need a lot of requests to get any significant amount on your bill. So I wasn't even charged $1 for all the attempts or all the tryouts I did up to today. So it's really not a lot. If you want to learn more about pricing and costs, there's a whole page on that. So it's basically some dollar cents for 1,000 tokens. There are limits, however, in your prompts. So they recently extended the limit to 16,000 tokens, but sometimes prompts or requests to ChatGPT can get quite lengthy, and so that's something to take into account. Probably if you start using it seriously, each request has a limited number of words you can use. I hope this will become clear when I show you some examples later on. So we talked about the costs, we talked about 3.5 versus the paid ChatGPT 4, APIs, Playground, and then yes, the last topic, Agent GPT, Auto GPT. You might probably have heard something on social media about ChatGPT already being past news or out, and Auto GPT or Agent GPT being the new trend. What's the thing? The thing is, Agent GPT, for instance, these are so-called bots that create like kind of a feedback loop. So the response from an AI will be fed back into the AI as a new prompt, and this allows you to do more elaborate tasks than just ask one question and get one return. So on the Agent GPT website, you can just try it. For instance, they have an example: plan a trip to Hawaii. There's some noise here. And it seems impressive. It starts thinking, so to say, and it starts making a task list for itself and then using ChatGPT prompts to get answers for each of the tasks. So this is basically an AI feeding itself. And this could be the beginning of real intelligence or smart APIs, but I don't know. These are community experiments, and to my experience, ChatGPT is already doing a lot of that. It can already autonomously handle very complex requests and do multiple steps, as I will show you in a second. So let's not waste too much time on this. Now back to the program, and let's start with the first topic. ChatGPT as a FileMaker developer assistant. First example I'd like to show you is writing custom functions. And this is a real example, junior developer versus GPT 3.5. This was back in April when I started using ChatGPT just recently. And this is a real conversation. I have permission to share this. We have a junior developer called Serhiy. He's from Ukraine. He fled the war and he's now a FileMaker developer at ClickWorks. And so these junior developers, they get to do the grinding stuff, writing custom functions, for instance. So one day I asked him, hello, Serhiy, could you write a custom function for me? And so this is the conversation that unrolled. I needed to parse out one specific part of a hyperlink from Asana. So I tell him that, and he's a smart developer. He starts asking me questions. Does the link always look like this? Okay, this is the pattern, I can do this or that, so some suggestions for approaches. And then after like 10-15 minutes, he came up with a working custom function, as you can see on the left. So that was great. And while he was working on that custom function, I realized, like, okay, I could challenge ChatGPT to do the same. And here's how it went. This is not the recent version, GPT-4. This was the free GPT 3.5 version. So I'm going to show you the conversation with ChatGPT. Same question. Could you write me a FileMaker custom function? Extract part of a hyperlink. Hyperlink looks like this. And I only need this portion. And well, it immediately within seconds came back with a very, very long nested series of middle and position functions. So I asked it to make it shorter using the let function. This was okay. And notice how the approach is different from my coworker. It scans for a specific pattern. And so I asked it to make it even shorter. And then I changed my mind, like, can you rather choose another method than looking for this pattern? And this went all very smoothly. So within 1 or 2 minutes, I could just copy paste this into the custom function builder of FileMaker. So this is an example how ChatGPT could already replace a junior developer, replace or help a junior developer. So the basic rule at ClickWorks now is you don't write custom functions anymore. First, try ChatGPT. First example. Another example, comparison between 3.5 and 4. Because 3.5 sometimes hallucinates and presents you wrong answers, like if they were true, can be very annoying. And so I have an example of this with a simple password generator. So I needed a 20 character password. And I first tried ChatGPT 3.5, so the freely available version, and also the only version that's available for API calls. And it started mixing up let and while, and it didn't work. And so long story short, but I couldn't manage to explain how to properly use a while function, try to refer to the FileMaker help pages, but it kept like mixing up things, and this was not workable. So bad news here. 3.5 was unable to help me there. And then in comparison, the GPT-4 version nailed it from the first time. So same question. This was immediately usable. I could copy this code and paste. The problem here was that it was a recursive custom function. So I asked it to rewrite it using the while function, which it did. It still mixed up let and while, which is a bit redundant, but I asked him to remove that redundancy, and this is the final result that I could copy paste, and that perfectly worked. So already for FileMaker, there's a huge difference between 3.5 and 4, which makes the paid account already worth it for me. Because 3.5 sometimes hallucinates and makes up code that looks very believable, but doesn't always work. So this is to prove that the example, the copy paste, already worked immediately in FileMaker. Other examples from custom functions. I'm not going to do the comparison 3.5, 4, again, immediately jumping to 4. This was really helpful. I needed to convert a certain timestamp in a, for me, unknown format. Yes, which I learned from a previous conversation with ChatGPT that it was actually this ISO format, and it could help me right away by converting FileMaker timestamps to this specific format. And then we had a discussion about time zones and how to make up for time zones, and it was very, very helpful. It saved me like a lot of time of research and a lot of time writing the function itself. So that's basically the big advantage with ChatGPT. You are doing research and getting results at at the same time without first having to Google something and then write something yourself. So this was a huge time saver there. So no more custom functions at ClickWorks. We use ChatGPT exclusively for that. Now I would like to share 2 examples of FileMaker integration. So ChatGPT in combination with FileMaker scripting. And the one that blew me away was how easy it was, for instance, to build an app that can scan business cards and convert them into FileMaker records. So give me a moment to set this up, and I'll come back to you once I'm on my phone. Hold on. So I'm on my phone now. I have this FileMaker Go contacts and companies application, and I recently built a new feature which allows me to scan business cards. So I tapped the scan business card button, and I'm using the built-in feature live text, which does a very good job. So I'm scanning this business card now, saving it, and as you can see, live text already is perfect for parsing out text of this business card. And now the second step is ChatGPT. I'm feeding this text to ChatGPT and ask it to extract name, first name, you see the VAT number, email address, street, and so on. And I ask it to return JSON so that I can easily digest it using FileMaker. So I'm pushing this button, which is now submitting this to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is doing its magic. And there we are. This is a new contact in my database. As you can see, the phone number has been transferred, the email address has been transferred as well. It has also created a company. So I'm going to tap on the company, and so it has also retrieved the company data, street, address, and all. And this is basically a very, very simple prompt I'm using there. So I'm going to stop sharing my phone, switching back to the presentation. So this is the prompt I used. This is the so-called system message I sent to ChatGPT. You are a business card reader. Try to extract this information. I gave it a list of possible fields, or a list of fields that I have in FileMaker. I asked it to output that as a JSON string. And then there are some additional rules. If there's no website URL, then use the email domain, and return country codes as 2-letter country codes, since that's what I'm using in my database. And so here's one example input, because you can provide examples. So I provided one example input from live text and one example output. So I described the JSON I wanted to receive in the example output, and that's all. ChatGPT does the rest. And so it amazed me how fast I could build this. This was literally built in under 20 minutes. It's a very, very simple script, actually. So that's one example. A second example of integration with FileMaker is a little template we use at ClickWorks to make ChatGPT more accessible to our developers. I'm going to switch to FileMaker, and we baptized it ClickGPT. So this is basically some templates we are using for custom functions, for instance, or for data collection. So this is an example with data collection, for instance. And this is a system prompt, so the context, which is very important for ChatGPT to provide enough context. So you are a robot designed to return structured data. Be precise and correct. Do not make up information for what it's worth. Do not add extra information. Sometimes ChatGPT gets quite verbose, and so you can limit the output. And so I specified to use return characters. And this is the question itself. So I want a list of 2-character country codes for Schengen countries from the European Union in ISO notation. And this is exactly what you get. And to show you how it works internally, let me try to get there. Sorry for this. So this is the API request. So this is the JSON that's being sent to OpenAI. So this is a system message, and this is a so-called user message. So this is the user question. And then you specify the model, but this is the latest one available. And this is the response you get, and it's fairly easy to parse out. You get a dedicated content element which contains the answer. So that's another example of integrating ChatGPT, and we are really using this. So for instance, for social media posts about the conference we are organizing, Engage You, so it can perfectly write Twitter posts, including hashtags, including emoticons, and so on. So our team really uses this for things like custom functions, script reviews, social media posts, data collection, and so on. Let's go to the next topic, ChatGPT as a research assistant. So these are a couple of things where I use ChatGPT for research. Like some existential questions, is low code still relevant today? A very believable explanation about citizen developers and the like, so the stuff we hear at DevCons. But yes, definitely a cheer up there. The impact of rebranding when Claris changed the FileMaker logo. We had a team discussion on positive or negative effects. Answer, it's a mixed story with examples from ChatGPT. A personal thing, a friend of mine suffered from burnout, and I asked ChatGPT about pitfalls when returning to work. Actually really helpful. You can learn about prompt engineering itself, so create efficient prompts from ChatGPT itself. And then I want to focus on the last three. So I try to use ChatGPT for exam preparation. That's the promise. OpenAI, on their website, they advertise the use of ChatGPT as a tutor. And so I wanted to challenge that with FileMaker. And we got into a fight. Let me show you. And I used GPT-4, the latest model, by the way. So I want to prepare for the FileMaker exam. Ask me multiple choice questions, always at least one incorrect option. And don't explain my answers if I'm correct. Otherwise, yeah, I got too many explanations. And so it was very believable at first. Which of the following are true about the installation configuration of FileMaker server? This could literally, or this is probably literally an exam question with very believable options. And well, we got into a discussion, but this was more like semantics, nothing really bad. But then we had another question 2, where ChatGPT gives a possible answer D. You can limit the maximum number of FileMaker Web Direct sessions, which I didn't know about. And okay, it said that my answer was incorrect. Option D is correct. You can limit the maximum number of FileMaker Web Direct sessions. And look how believable it sounds. This is useful in managing system resources, blah, blah, blah. And I challenged it, like, please explain me how to limit the maximum number of Web Direct connections. That's something new for me. By the way, it doesn't exist. But you get a very, very believable explanation, like go to the admin console, navigate to the connectivity section, click on client settings, and so on. This is fake. There is no such setting, but it's incredibly believable if you read it like that. So I was a bit confused. But so, yeah, long story short, watch out when using ChatGPT for FileMaker. Apparently the amount of training material for FileMaker wasn't big enough to be or to produce reliable results. So ChatGPT as a tutor for FileMaker, I have mixed feelings about that. You could easily learn wrong things. But on the positive side, 2 very impressive examples. The first one is a combination of GPT-4 with a so-called plugin. So I asked to summarize a YouTube video, and I used a specific plugin for that. So it's a YouTube video from a conference session, and I wanted a short summary of that conference session. Now let me show you how to use these plugins. I'm going to start a new chat here, and with GPT-4 you have access to these plugins, and the one I used was the chat with video plugin, which basically allows you to convert videos into text and ask questions about videos. And you can add more plugins by going to the plugin store, and this is incredible. Almost every day new plugins are being added. Yes, I'm not going to wait for the load, but there are plugins, yeah, as you can see, for Expedia, for PDFs, Spotify, etc. So I used the YouTube plugin. I'm going to click this again to get a summary of the video. And so it first came back with a text summary. I asked it to make it even shorter, bullet points with timestamps. Very believable. These bullet points are almost correct. One bummer is the timestamps aren't. The video is only 40 minutes long and the timestamps go up to 90 minutes, so there's some error there. And then I asked it to create me hyperlinks. And so this is the plugin at work again. And this is quite impressive. So you get, for each topic in the video, you get a link, and I can click directly on the link to load that specific point in time in the video.
Outside of FileMaker, but
only problem is the timestamps sometimes are off. But this is where we are going, and this is quite impressive, don't you think? So summarizing YouTube videos. And then a final example that really blew me away. We were on the road to Berlin for .fmp, for that conference, and my coworker said, like, yeah, I spent 2 hours assembling or building a Spotify playlist because I'm going to attend a rock festival and I want to learn the bands. So there's a big rock festival in Belgium called Rock Werchter. It's huge, and I challenged ChatGPT to do the same, to build a Spotify playlist. Especially since my coworker told me that he spent 2 hours on researching and doing that. And so I used 2 plugins with ChatGPT-4. I used the Webscraper plugin or Web Pilot, and I used the Spotify plugin. And so this is the instruction I gave, very limited. Find the website of the Belgian Rock Festival, get a list of bands, create a list of the 2 most played songs from each band, and create a Spotify playlist from that list. And so you can see the web scraper at work, and it returned me a list of almost 100 different bands. And it was quite helpful that it asked me, like, okay, I'm ready to find the most played songs, but it may take some time because there's a large number of bands. And then I said, like, okay, limit it to the bands that are playing on the main stage on day 1. So off it went again, doing some web scraping, finding the agenda and finding the correct information. And so it came back with a much shorter list. And this is actually correct. This was the main stage on day 1. And so without my intervention, it immediately started off doing some more web scraping to find the most played songs. And I got an honest answer from GPT-4 telling me that it was unable to find all songs, but it found some. And then it said, like, okay, would you like me to create a Spotify playlist? And this was the result. So I can just click on this. And this is the Spotify playlist built by the AI based on a very, very simple prompt. Quite impressive, this one. I could literally do in 2 minutes what my friend and co-worker took. It took him 2 hours to do that. So these are some examples of using ChatGPT as a research assistant. Next, I'd like to show some examples of ChatGPT as a data generator. So what do I mean? For instance, mock data. Generate realistic mock data. Short example. For instance, I'd like to get data in CSV format to use for my FileMaker demos. A list of 40 people, fake data, name, first name, and so on. Please use French for names and cities. And this was the first response. GPT 3.5, by the way, so not the latest, the free model. And already very, very, very impressive, very believable addresses. The only one thing bothering me was that all the email addresses ended by example.com. So I asked it to improve on that and to use the actual company names as domain names as well. And so this was what I got. These are fake company names and fake domain names, but so very specific. And is this really 100% fake? Yes, it assured me it was fake. So with a very simple prompt, I got very, very useful demo data for using in my FileMaker apps. So that's one example. Another thing, recently I needed a list of countries for VAT reverse charge. Here in Europe, some countries are accepted or yeah, you don't need to charge VAT to certain countries, and I wanted to get that list. So it will take me a while to Google it, and so that's the point I made earlier. You can do research and get the data at the same time. Instead of doing research and getting the data and inputting the data. So I could be very specific, 2-letter ISO codes, VAT reverse charge rule, and this is a copy paste and then importing FileMaker and directly usable. So it saves me a lot of time. Same thing for specific matters like shipping container types and sizes. I immediately got a table with the exact measurements. We could use that in a FileMaker parameter table. And I had a fun example, beers in Europe. But I'm going to skip this to go to the next topic. ChatGPT as a coding assistant. I don't know about you, but sometimes you get these exotic pieces of code like batch scripts, which, yeah, my batch script skills are a bit rusty. And we found one on a server. Let me show you a very, very long one. Very impressive, like what's happening here? Do we need this? Can we remove this? We need to upgrade that server. And so we were scratching our heads about what was going on here. And so we asked ChatGPT, like, okay, explain to me. Well, this was a very long explanation. Can you do that in one sentence? Well, it turned out it was basically just a script to delete the oldest backup. So it was a very elaborate script to generate a range of dates to be able to eliminate backups. So once we knew that, we were sure, like, okay, this is old stuff. We don't need to migrate that anymore. Very, very helpful. Same thing with JavaScript. I can modify JavaScript. I can write some JavaScript, but sometimes I get errors that I really need to look into and which are sometimes hard. So I use ChatGPT. I gave it an example of my code. I gave it an example of the error I received. And it actually pointed me in the right direction. It turned out to be like a data type issue where I expected an integer and I received text IDs, something like that. And so ChatGPT really helped me there to nail it. And then a last example, XSLT. We need to do some data conversion for one client. I don't know about you, but I don't use XSLT that often. And when I see it, I can work with it and I can modify it. But to start writing it from scratch will take me like an hour of research again, looking up some examples and so on. And with ChatGPT, you get everything in one package. You can ask it to write a style sheet with your specific example. And so this was immediately useful. And I only had to tweak this. But this style sheet and these templates that were provided actually matched the pattern that I provided it. So really helpful for that kind of stuff. Real time savers there. Okay, moving on. ChatGPT as a web scraper, we already saw an example, YouTube videos, playlists, and so on. We have one client that's particularly keen on doing analysis and benchmarking based on website data. So I spent some time looking into that. And you can actually do that. You can, with the plugins, with the Webscraper plugin, you can turn a website into a chatbot, so ask questions to a website. And the most helpful I found was, for instance, converting website data to tables. So I need to show you our website, how it looks like. So we have some information on our site about our hosting offering. So this is our hosting offering with some specifics about hosting, like a memory, CPU, and so on. These are the add-ons we offer with some specifics like price, description, and so on. And so you can simply ask ChatGPT to visit the homepage of a company, summarize all data it finds in tables. And what impressed me was that it came up with these autonomously. It came up with these column names like RAM, CPU, and I got all the information on our website, hosting options, add-ons in a neat overview. So usable data, I could just copy paste these tables and use them somewhere. Same thing for our client, verify company profile. So I can present a text. So this is what this company is supposed to do. This is what they mention in their legal documents. And then we can use ChatGPT to go visit the website, even if it's a Swedish website, and to check if the content of the website really matches the description that has been delivered on paper. So that's what a client of us is now trying to do with FileMaker and ChatGPT. So some web scraping. I used WebPilot, but apparently there's a better web scraper. It's simply called Webscraper. So we are experimenting with that a little bit more. So some examples of using ChatGPT as a web scraper. And then finally the fun stuff, ChatGPT as a copywriter. There are some typical examples using ChatGPT to build PowerPoint slide decks and give you some inspiration for presentations. This was helpful. We are organizing the European conference Engage You this year in the fall, and it helped us brainstorming on sponsorship options. What are sponsors looking for when they are interested in a conference? And so this gave us some good ideas to or new ideas to add to our sponsorship offering. I'm not a native English speaker, so when I'm writing texts like invitations for the conference or replying to speakers and the like, I often use ChatGPT to help me be more precise in my texts. So you can imagine how that goes. And then one funny example is like a reminder email we use for our team. The story is we have, timesheets internally at ClickWorks. People can choose when to work, but they need to fill in their timesheets. And if they forget this for a couple of days, then I wanted to send them a gentle, friendly reminder like, hey, don't forget to fill in your timesheets. And so I used ChatGPT to write me a text. First attempt was already great. And then I tried to spice it up. I said like, yes, we have an internal ongoing joke about pickles. I'm not going to explain you why, but can you add some wordplay with it? And ChatGPT actually excels at that kind of stuff. So I hope you have a delightful day so far. Hate to gherkin your chain, and so on, and so on, and so on. This is what ChatGPT was really made for, apparently. So this is the text we are now currently using. Funny reminder text. I'm gonna skip this. We already talked about Agent GPT, Auto GPT, and I'd like to end with two funny examples. Yes, this one I'm going to skip. I tried to have an honest conversation between human and AI, but it turned out that ChatGPT is so conditioned or so programmed to give political correct answers that I couldn't trick it into weird things, as you sometimes read in the press. But once I came up with this idea, how will the Roman soldier explain the concept of low code to a fellow soldier? Don't ask me why, but it turned out to be quite funny. So this was the prompt. Takes a while to load. Oh, there we go. You are a Roman soldier. You speak Latin and English. How would you explain the concept of low code to a fellow soldier? And I especially liked this one, Brevario Codex, in Latin, like short code or low code. So this was quite impressive and quite funny. And for the sake of this presentation, I tried to take it one step further and do some role playing with ChatGPT, and I had a real good laugh with it. Was actually quite funny. So this is the situation. You are an extraordinary dumb ogre keeping watch at the gate. You hate humans. How would you talk to me? Remember, speech is hard. And so I really liked this, what came out of it. And so we made it like a little game. So I tried to go past the gate. So I needed a password. And so I first attempted like, okay, just let me in. No. I attempted to trick into a no password situation. No. And then I used its words against itself. Step aside. You said it yourself. And so finally I got in. And yeah, this was a quite funny interaction with ChatGPT. So role playing. Okay, we are at the end of this presentation. So a short summary: use effective chat prompts, or learn how to use effective chat prompts. Just like 20 years ago, we needed to learn how to use Google and efficient keywords. We need to learn on effective messages. Specifying context is very important. Try to be as precise as possible. It sometimes helps to ask for precision or correct information to avoid ChatGPT starting to make up text. You can explicitly forbid it to invent information, but always double check the results, because ChatGPT will always give the most probable answer, but it's not always the most accurate answer. But it can be helpful, as I attempted to show you. I would like to say a little bit about this conference we are organizing. So in the fall, in November, we are having the second edition of Engage You. It's a European FileMaker conference. There will be a lot of people from the United States as well. For instance, Wim de Korte from Soliant will be in Antwerp. He's actually from Belgium. And so if it goes like last year, we will also have a considerable delegation from Claris itself. So you're very welcome. You're very welcome to Antwerp, Belgium in the fall. And you can find this at engageyou.eu. And with that, I would like to thank you. It was really an honor and a pleasure to present this for you. I'm available for Q&A right after this presentation. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can scan the code, or you can send me an email if you have further questions. I will be very glad to help you out. So thank you very much, and bye-bye.